I was standing in the middle of my parents' living room with my brother screaming in my face, his hands shaking so violently that the loan documents fluttered to the floor like broken feathers. My mother stood behind him, clutching her chest dramatically, like she was auditioning for an award. My father pointed at me with the disappointment of a pastor scolding a sinner. Everything felt loud, chaotic, and suffocating. The realtor was outside in her car waiting for his final signature. The bank was calling repeatedly. Possession day was barely a week away, and everyone expected me, the responsible one, the good daughter, the one with the stable job and perfect credit, to fix everything with a single signature. A single signature that would chain me to a mortgage that wasn't mine, with a brother who had a history of accidentally forgetting payments. And yet, somehow, I was the villain. "You're ruining my life," he roared, his voice cracking. "This house was my fresh start. Do you think you're better than us?" But I didn't flinch. I stood my ground, even though my hands were trembling. Because in that moment, even with the whole room spinning with accusations, I knew one thing with absolute clarity. I was not going to co-sign that mortgage. Not this time. Not again. Not for him. But before I tell you how it all blew up, you need to understand how we got here. My name is Kendra, and I am the forgotten middle child, the one who grew up being told to help your brother and be patient with him, and he's just going through a phase. Except his phase lasted 32 years and left a trail of debt, broken relationships, impulsive decisions, and fake apologies that always expired after 3 days. My brother, Marcus, was our parents' golden child, handsome, charming, irresponsible, reckless, and allergic to accountability. Growing up, he was the kid who crashed the family car, who stole money out of my mom's purse, who dropped out of programs he swore were his new path, but still got praised for trying. Meanwhile, I was the one cleaning up after him, covering bills, giving him rides, even loaning him my savings once only to get ghosted for a month. Fast forward to this year. He got engaged to a woman named Laura, someone who looked sweet on the outside, but had that unsettling "I deserve luxury" attitude that never matched her income. Together they convinced themselves they needed a house, not an apartment, not a starter condo, no, a full-size detached house with a finished basement, a double garage, and a backyard big enough for a wedding. The problem? Their combined income barely qualified them for a mailbox, let alone a mortgage. But my parents? Oh, they encouraged it. Hyped it up. Dream big. Start a family. We'll figure it out. Except they weren't the ones the bank wanted. They wanted me. Of course they did. My credit was immaculate. My income was stable. My debts were low. But the moment his mortgage advisor mentioned the word co-sign, my stomach tightened. I tried to avoid the topic. I tried to change the subject. I tried to pretend the request wouldn't come. But it came. Like a storm. It happened over dinner. I remember it so vividly, the smell of roasted chicken filling the room, the soft clinking of cutlery, the way everyone kept side-eyeing me like I was being ambushed. "So, Kendra," my mom said casually, too casually. "Your brother got pre-approved, well, almost." My fork paused halfway. "Almost?" I asked. Dad cleared his throat. "He just needs someone to support the mortgage. Temporarily." Marcus leaned forward. "Just sign, sis. I'll take care of everything." A lie. We all knew it. But they said it like it was a tiny favor, like they were asking me to pass the salt, not tie my financial life to someone whose budgeting skills were on the same level as a toddler let loose in a candy store. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I can't co-sign." The table froze. My mother gasped softly. Marcus dropped his fork. Lara's smile tightened like she wanted to peel my face off. "What do you mean you can't?" he demanded. I said calmly that I won't. I thought the shock would fade and reality would sink in. Instead, the manipulation campaign began. My parents visited me unannounced. They left me long voicemails. Even Laura called pretending to be understanding before guilt-tripping me about ruining their timeline for kids. But I held my ground. Until the morning everything exploded. 1 week before possession day, the bank called Marcus to say the final underwriter rejected his file. Credit too unstable. Income too unpredictable. Debt too high. Cosigner required or mortgage canceled. He drove straight to our parents' house and demanded they call a family meeting, which led to the moment I found myself standing in the eye of that screaming storm, Marcus shoving loan documents at me, my mother sobbing, my father shaming me, and everyone expecting me to financially adopt a grown man. The pressure was unbearable. But my answer didn't change. No, I said, my voice steady even though my heart was racing. And that single word, that tiny simple word, triggered a chain reaction none of us were prepared for. Because in less than 7 days, something happened that destroyed family relationships, exposed secrets, revealed betrayal no one expected, and pushed Marcus to a breaking point that shocked even me. But that's the part after. This was only the beginning of the fallout. The silence that followed my no didn't stay silent for long. It cracked open like thunder. Marcus's face twisted into something I had never seen on him before. Rage, panic, desperation, and entitlement all tangled into one ugly expression. My mother kept saying my name like a broken record, her voice climbing higher with every breath. My father stared at me like I had personally set the house on fire. But the moment that truly stunned me was when Laura, sweet, soft-voiced Laura, stepped forward, lifted her chin, and asked in a voice edged with ice, "So you're really choosing your credit score over your brother's home?" I blinked. "I'm choosing my stability over someone else's responsibility." She scoffed. "Easy for you to say. You don't understand what it means to build a future with someone." That one hit deeper than she knew. She didn't know the nights I'd cried after my last breakup. She didn't know how hard I worked for years to repair my credit after my ex drained our joint account. She didn't know how many sacrifices I made just to become the version of me they all took for granted. And she didn't care. "To you," she continued, "it's just a signature." "To the bank," I replied slowly, "it's a legally binding guarantee that I will pay if you don't." My father jumped in. "You're being dramatic." "No," I said. "I'm being realistic." But that wasn't what they wanted from me. They wanted obedience dressed as family loyalty. After yelling for nearly 20 minutes, Marcus stormed out to take a call from his mortgage broker. The moment the door closed behind him, the room deflated, but not in a peaceful way. My mom took the chance to sit next to me, gripping my hands like she was pleading for a kidney. "Baby, you know your brother has been trying so hard," she whispered. "Trying how?" I asked. "He's had 4 jobs in a year, 2 credit cards and collections, and he still hasn't paid me back from last year's emergency loan." She blinked rapidly, ignoring all of that. "People make mistakes." "Yes," I said. "And they fix them." "He never does." My dad leaned against the doorway, arms folded. "You've become cold, Kendra. Ever since you got that promotion, you think you're above the family." His words stung. Because they weren't even his, they were things Marcus had whispered into their ears for years. Things they believed. Things they used to guilt me. Before I could respond, the front door burst open again. Marcus came inside looking pale, almost sick. He dropped his phone onto the couch, rubbed both hands over his head, then slowly looked at me. "They canceled the mortgage." Mom gasped. Dad cursed under his breath. Laura froze like someone had pulled her batteries out. "They what?" my mother shrieked. "They canceled it," he repeated, his voice breaking. "The bank said the file cannot proceed without a cosigner. And since he pointed at me refused, they pulled out." I swallowed hard. Even though I said no, I wasn't expecting this level of finality already. I thought he'd have time to process it. But possession day was too close. Banks don't play games that late. Laura lunged forward. "No, no, no. There must be a mistake. That house was ours. I already planned the wedding photos in the backyard. I already told my family." Marcus cut her off. "They don't care what you planned. Without the mortgage, they're giving the house to the next buyer." My mother turned to me with full fury, tears streaking down her face. "This is your fault, Kendra. You destroyed your brother's future." "I didn't destroy anything," I said, my voice shaking now. "He chose a house he couldn't afford." That statement was like throwing gasoline on a bonfire. Marcus lunged toward me, his face inches from mine. "Do you know what you've done? Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is? Do you know how many people we told? How many plans we made. Laura sniffled dramatically. My parents already bought us housewarming gifts. That almost made me laugh. Almost. But what really rattled me was not the yelling. Not the blame. Not even the insults. It was the look in Marcus's eyes, an unhinged mixture of entitlement and resentment. Like he wasn't just upset. He was looking at me like I owed him my financial life out of obligation, out of birth order, out of pure familial duty. As if my refusal wasn't a choice, but a betrayal. The next 48 hours were hell. My parents ignored my calls. My mother subtweeted me on Facebook. Yes, she actually posted, "Some children forget where they came from." My father sent me a long text about family unity. My aunt called to ask why I was punishing Marcus. And my grandmother left a voicemail saying she was praying I find compassion. Meanwhile, Marcus sent a message I still have saved. "You will regret this." Not a threat. A promise. But the most shocking twist came not from him, but from the realtor. 3 days later, she called me. "Hi, Kendra. I know you're not involved with the mortgage, but I think you should know something." I frowned. "Know what?" She hesitated. "Your brother submitted forged documents." My heart stopped. "What do you mean forged?" She sighed. "His income statements are fake. The bank discovered inconsistencies when they did a deeper audit." He tried to push the file through, hoping it wouldn't be caught. I felt cold. Like the floor vanished beneath me. And because of this, she continued, he might be facing legal consequences. Legal consequences. For a mortgage he tried to drag me into. But the worst part? He tried to involve me. Even after the bank canceled. Because 2 hours later, I got a call from someone I never expected. The fraud investigator. And that's when everything spiraled into a place so chaotic, so unbelievable, that even I wasn't prepared for what came next. When the investigator's number flashed across my phone, my first reaction was confusion, followed quickly by dread. I stared at the screen for a long second, my pulse thundering in my ears. Why would I be getting this call? Why would a fraud investigator want to speak to me? I finally answered, my voice tight. "Hello." A calm man introduced himself and explained he was reviewing the mortgage file my brother had attempted to secure. I expected him to ask about Marcus, maybe about the loan, maybe about family dynamics. But instead, his first question nearly made my knees buckle. "Ms. Lawson, can you confirm whether you recently agreed to co-sign for your brother's mortgage?" "No," I said quickly. "I refused." He paused. "That's concerning. Because there is a cosigner signature on the latest version of the documents, under your name." My breath caught, sharp, painful, almost dizzying. "What? That can't be possible. I never signed anything." There was something like disappointment in his sigh. "Exactly. That's what we feared." My legs went weak. I sat on the edge of my bed, my hands shaking uncontrollably. "Are you saying," I forced the words out, "that someone forged my signature?" "That is our suspicion," he replied carefully. "We need to verify a few things before we proceed." The room was silent, but inside me everything was screaming. My own brother. My own family. They forged my signature. To trap me. To bind me. To force me into saving him. My stomach churned violently. My mind raced. The betrayal hit me like cold water dumped over my spine. And the worst part? I wasn't surprised, not really. A part of me, a deep, tired part, had been waiting for this moment. Because Marcus had always pushed boundaries, always expected others to fix his problems, always believed consequences were for other people. But this was a crime. The investigator continued, "Ms. Lawson, I need to ask, was anyone in your family aware of your refusal to co-sign?" "They all were," I whispered. "The entire family has been pressuring me for weeks." He hummed thoughtfully. "Then this was deliberate." My throat tightened. "What happens now?" "We'll need you to provide a written statement and possibly samples of your signature for comparison. And, depending on the bank's final report, charges may be filed." I closed my eyes. Charges. Against my brother. Against my own flesh and blood. "I understand," I said, even though my voice was barely there. After the call ended, I sat still for a long time, letting the weight of it all crush down on me. My chest felt tight. My eyes burned. It was one thing to say no. It was another thing to be blamed. But it was something entirely different to be set up. Hours passed. I didn't eat. I didn't move. I replayed every conversation with Marcus. Every guilt trip. Every tantrum. Every manipulative moment I had brushed aside as family drama. But nothing prepared me for the next blow. The next evening, I was brushing my hair when I heard a hard knock on my door. Not a polite knock. Not a family knock. A heavy, sharp, rapid knock that made my heart jump. I opened it and nearly froze. Marcus. His clothes were wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot, his hair disheveled like he had been pulling at it for hours. But it was his expression that made me step back, a blend of panic, rage, and a strange kind of pleading. "We need to talk," he said, barging inside before I even responded. I locked the door behind him instinctively, unsure why, but something told me this conversation was going to be messy. Marcus paced the living room, running a hand through his hair. Finally, he turned to me. "They called you, didn't they?" I didn't answer. His face twisted. "They did. I knew it. I knew they'd drag you in. I told them you'd panic. You overthink everything. What did you do, Marcus?" I whispered. He groaned loudly. "It's not a big deal, Kendra. I needed a little help. I only copied your signature because I knew you'd say no. I didn't think they'd check. Nobody ever checks." Nobody ever checks. Of course. That was his entire life summed up in one sentence. My blood ran ice cold. "Marcus, that's fraud. That's illegal." He stepped closer, towering over me. "But it would have worked out. If you had just played along. If you had just supported me for once, none of this would have happened." I stared at him, shocked into silence. "Do you know what Lara's parents are saying?" he continued, voice rising. "Do you know how humiliated I am? Everyone thinks I'm a loser now, and it's your fault." My voice cracked. "You forged MY's signature." His hand slammed onto my coffee table, making me jump. "Because you forced me to. You cornered me. What was I supposed to do?" "To be responsible," I whispered. "Just once." But he wasn't listening. He was spiraling. "Look, Kendra. I need you to fix this." He said it so casually, so confidently, that for a moment I thought I misheard. "Fix what?" "Tell the bank you signed it. Tell them you changed your mind. Just say it was a misunderstanding." I stepped back. "Absolutely not." His eyes widened like he couldn't believe I was still refusing. "But if you don't do this, they might charge me. They might actually take me to court. Kendra, I could go to jail." He grabbed my wrist. "Kendra, please, I need you. You're my sister." I pulled my hand away, numb. "You should have thought of that before forging my name." The room went still. Then something in his face snapped. The panic drained. The pleading vanished. All that remained was cold anger. "You're choosing your stupid credit score over your brother's life," he hissed. "Don't worry. Everyone will know who destroyed this family." He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. I collapsed onto the couch, tears spilling down my cheeks, not because of guilt, but because of the betrayal. The audacity. The way my own family would spin this, twist this, weaponize this. And I was right. Because before I even wiped my face, my phone buzzed with a message from my mother. A long message. A dramatic message. A hateful message. Accusing me of ruining Marcus's reputation. Of destroying the family name. Of bringing shame on the household. Of having no loyalty. Of choosing strangers over your own blood. But buried deep in that message was the part that made my heart stop. She wrote, "Marcus only forged your signature because we told him you would eventually give in. We, my parents, encouraged him." I stared at that sentence until the letters blurred. This wasn't just Marcus. My entire family was in on it. They planned to break me, corner me, pressure me. Until I said yes. But they didn't expect the bank to catch it. They didn't expect consequences. They didn't expect me to stand firm. And now? Now they were panicking. And panic makes people sloppy. Panicked people make mistakes. And their biggest mistake was thinking I had no power. They had no idea what I was capable of when pushed too far. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on my couch staring at the ceiling, my mind spiraling in slow, painful circles full of betrayal, disbelief, and a bitter clarity I wished I'd never gained. Every text replayed in my head. Every accusation echoed. Every word from my mother's long message stabbed like a tiny needle. He only forged your signature because we told him you would eventually give in. That line kept slicing through me like a blade. My parents didn't just support him. They enabled him. They encouraged him. They assumed I would fold like always. The good daughter. The reliable one. The fixer. The cushion for everyone's bad decisions. And when I didn't, when, for the first time, I protected myself, they decided to punish me for breaking the unspoken family rule. Kendra sacrifices, everyone else benefits. But something changed in me that night. Their messages were supposed to shame me. Instead, they woke me up. They showed me who they truly were. Who they had always been. And once someone shows you their truth, you can't unsee it. The next morning, as sunlight crept across my living room, my phone buzzed again. It was my aunt. Then my cousin. Then my other cousin. Then my grandmother. The group chats were on fire. Most messages weren't even questions, they were accusations disguised as concern. Why couldn't you just help him this one time? Family means sacrifice. You're acting selfish. We raised you better. You've changed. You've changed. As if that was an insult. As if change wasn't necessary. As if staying in the role they assigned me was some noble expectation. But buried between those messages was the one that broke the last thread holding my patience together. Marcus told us you're refusing to clear your name, and now he might get arrested. Clear my name? Clear my name? I hadn't done anything. He forged my signature. They pressured him. But somehow, I had become the villain of a story I didn't write. I was the scapegoat. The monster. The selfish one. The heartless one. I stared at my phone and felt something shift inside me, a quiet, icy resolve. They weren't just angry. They were rewriting the narrative. If I didn't protect myself now, they would bury me under their version of events. And worse, I would end up financially and legally tied to a mess I never created. So I made a decision. A calm, clear, unapologetic decision. I was done protecting them. I was done absorbing their mistakes. I was done caring more for them than they cared for me. And if that meant the truth destroyed their precious image of Marcus, so be it. That afternoon, the fraud investigator called again. He needed my statement, officially. He needed signature samples. He needed confirmation that I had never given my consent. And for the first time in my life, I didn't hesitate to tell the truth. Every detail, every conversation, every manipulation, every message, every pressure tactic. I sent screenshots of the texts from my mother. I sent the voicemail from my grandmother. I sent proof of my previous loans to Marcus that he never repaid. I sent the threatening message he left me. The investigator went quiet. Then he exhaled. Ms. Lawson, this is worse than we thought. I sat frozen. What do you mean? We found additional inconsistencies in the file. Documents we believe were altered. And based on what you've provided. He paused again. We suspect this was a coordinated attempt to misrepresent information for mortgage approval. Coordinated attempt. Mortgage fraud. My chest tightened. So, what happens now? The bank will be escalating this. And Marcus may not be the only one questioned. I sucked in a sharp breath. My parents. We can't say who's involved yet, he replied carefully. But forged signatures and falsified income, someone helped him. Helped him. Encouraged him. Enabled him. My family wasn't just toxic. They were complicit. Later that evening, just when I thought things couldn't get worse, they did. I stepped out to get fresh air, walked down to the lobby of my building, and there, standing near the door, were my parents. My mother's eyes were red and puffy. My father looked exhausted but cold. Kendra, my dad said, we need to talk. I swallowed. About what? About the fraud? The forged signature? Or the fact that you told Marcus I'd given eventually? My mother flinched. That's not fair. Neither is dragging me into a criminal mess, I said quietly. Dad exhaled sharply, annoyed. You're making this into something bigger than it needs to be. No, I said. I'm acknowledging it for what it is. Dad stepped closer. The investigator said you sent them everything. Why? His tone wasn't surprised. It was accusatory. My mom sniffled. Did you really have to give them those screenshots? You're making the situation worse for your brother. I stared at them. There it was. The truth so bare it was almost laughable. They weren't upset about the fraud. They weren't upset that I was dragged into it. They weren't upset that I had been betrayed. They were upset I didn't protect Marcus. That I didn't lie for him. That I didn't cover it up. That I didn't play along like always. I suddenly felt lighter. Not happy. Not relieved. But free. I'm done, I said. I'm done being the family's safety net. I'm done sacrificing myself to protect grown adults from their own decisions. Kendra, my mother whispered through tears, this could ruin us. I looked at her and, for the first time, felt absolutely nothing. I didn't ruin anything, I said. I simply refused to be ruined with you. Dad opened his mouth to argue, but the elevator dinged behind me. I stepped inside, pressed the button, and looked them in the eye as the doors slowly closed. They looked small, lost, terrified. And for the first time, they realized consequences were coming. Not for me. For them. Because they thought I was powerless. But they had forgotten something important. Truth is the sharpest weapon. And once it's out, nothing can stop it. The revenge wasn't complete yet. But it was coming. And they were not ready. 2 weeks passed, and the air around my family felt like a storm waiting to strike. No one spoke to me directly anymore, not with words anyway. They communicated through silence, passive-aggressive messages, and frantic whispers that always ended with my name. I became the villain of their version of the story. The selfish one. The cold one. The one who destroyed Marcus's future. But while they built their own narrative, something else was happening quietly, steadily, behind the scenes. The bank was finishing its investigation. And that was the day the storm finally hit. It happened on a Thursday morning. I was at my desk sipping coffee when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. At first, I ignored it until they called again. I answered, and a man cleared his throat. Ms. Lawson, this is Detective Harris with the Financial Crimes Unit. My heart stuttered. This is regarding the fraudulent mortgage application under your name. We'd like you to come in for a final statement. I exhaled shakily. Final? As in the investigation is complete. My fingers tightened around my phone. What did you find? There was a pause. A pause long enough to make my stomach drop. We found multiple falsified documents. Pay stubs altered. Income inflated. Debt concealed. He continued, voice steady. And your signature was forged, as confirmed by the handwriting analyst. I swallowed hard. Marcus? He has been referred for prosecution. My throat tightened painfully. Is the bank pressing charges? Yes, he said. Given the extent of the falsification, they believe it was intentional. He will receive notice shortly. I closed my eyes. My chest felt heavy, not with guilt, but with the weight of the inevitable. My brother was going to be charged. And it wasn't just him. The detective cleared his throat again, his tone shifting. And Ms. Lawson, we need you to know something else. My pulse quickened. What? There is evidence suggesting the forged signature was not done by one person. My blood ran cold. He continued, certain documents appear to involve multiple hands. The pressure patterns, the strokes, the corrections, they indicate assistance. My heart thudded. Assistance by who? We can't disclose names yet, he said gently. But the bank will pursue questioning. Questioning. Of my parents. It felt like the world tilted sideways. All the guilt they tried to dump on me. All the shame they tried to drown me in. All the anger they weaponized against me. Yet behind the scenes, they were participants. Not victims. Not bystanders. Participants. That evening, the real explosion happened. I returned home from the grocery store and found my mother sitting outside my apartment building. She looked smaller somehow, her hair unbrushed, her eyes swollen from crying. My father stood beside her, hands on his hips, pacing like a man who had lost control of everything. "Kendra," my mother said weakly as I approached, "please talk to us." I took a breath. "What is it?" My dad's voice came out strained and trembling with anger. "The police came to the house today." I froze. My mother wrung her hands. They asked questions about the mortgage, about signatures, about documents." Her voice cracked. "They think we helped Marcus commit fraud." I looked at them. This was it. The moment where everything collided. The moment they finally realized actions have consequences. My father pointed a shaky finger at me. "Didn't you think this would happen? Didn't you consider what this would do to us?" I stared at him, disbelief washing over me. Me? You told him I'd eventually give in, I said. You encouraged him. You pushed him. And now you want to blame me because the consequences caught up to you. My mother sobbed. "We didn't think it would go this far." "That's the problem," I said quietly. "You never think. You expect me to clean it up." Dad clenched his jaw. "You could fix this." "No," I said. "I can't. And I won't." My mother broke entirely then, collapsing into a chair, her shoulders shaking. "We could lose everything," she whispered through tears. For a moment, I felt something, pity maybe. Sadness. The ghost of old loyalty tugging at my chest. But then I remembered the guilt trips. The accusations. The betrayal. The forged signature. The way they would have destroyed my entire financial future without blinking. I straightened my back. "I didn't do this to you," I said. "You did this to yourselves." Dad's voice lost all its edge. "So that's it? You're going to let your brother go to jail?" I lifted my chin. He put himself there. Silence. A silence so deep it swallowed everything around us. They stared at me, shocked, wounded, unable to believe that the daughter who always said yes was now saying no and meaning it. My mother reached for my hand. "Kendra, please, do something." I pulled my hand back gently. "I did," I said. "I told the truth." Then I walked inside. And for the first time in my life, I didn't look back. The fallout came quickly. Marcus was formally charged with mortgage fraud. My parents were questioned repeatedly. The entire family finally understood what I had been dealing with for years, except now they couldn't deny it or hide it. My relatives? They went silent. Funny how fast people stop judging when facts slap them in the face. My parents eventually sent a long, apologetic message. Not fully taking responsibility, people like them rarely do. But it was enough. As for Marcus, he disappeared from the family group chat, from social media, from everything. Sometimes I wonder if he blames me. Sometimes I wonder if he learned anything. Sometimes I wonder if he'll ever speak to me again. But here's the truth I finally made peace with. Protecting yourself is not betrayal. Sacrificing yourself is not loyalty. And blood is not an excuse for abuse. In the end, my revenge wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a scheme. It wasn't a trap. My revenge was simple. I chose myself. I told the truth. And I let their own actions destroy the illusion they tried to hide behind. For once, they were the ones dealing with consequences. Not me. Not anymore.